Are you good?
There we go.
Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We will be here shortly. Approval of the agenda changes or additions. No additions that I'm aware of. I don't think so. I think it's the first. No additions?
Nope.
No. Is there a motion to approve the agenda? Krista, is there a second?
I'll second it.
Carl, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Approval of the minutes. Consider the approval of the minutes, school board meeting, September 15th.
I will approve the minutes.
Carl, is there a second? Ellie, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Consent agenda. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda? Nellie, is there a second? Krista, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Community reports, highlights and recognitions.
So wanted to just give a shout out to everyone. Homecoming for the most part was successful. And Ms. Heimer and the student council specifically want to thank them for their work towards homecoming. And it was nice to actually get back into the normalcy of what, considering last year was piecemeal together. So thank you to her and her teams.
Anything else? Were there any public comments?
Nope.
No. School board committee updates. Negotiations.
Negotiations, I'm meeting with Jim Hansen tomorrow to get that process going. He's the chief negotiator.
Legacy committee. We just finished our awesome walkathon. Yay. Yeah, it was great. The kids did an amazing job. So I want to thank all the kids, staff, everyone for such a great job. Thank you, you two, for getting slimed.
That was fun.
I think it was a huge motivator. So, yeah,
Yeah.
right?
I would agree with that.
So thank you for being,
Next year, Tasey.
so thank you for being good sports.
Not me.
That was brought up.
I know. I kind of like it.
I didn't do it.
If you get maybe an extra 0 after this.
Yeah, it's gotta be a lot.
Including School board
As far
members.
as
then?
membership and joining.
I would have to think of the
There
number.
are some people that are interested.
It would have to be-
Part of it. So I don't know if we can.
We'll just all get in the
put it
in the
out
line
there,
and last person.
Yeah,
something as sort of a sign up, so that way you can get more people
Yes.
involved in the same
Yes.
people that you already,
You need to,
yes.
yes.
And there's people out there that want to
I
participate,
know, I know.
but there needs to be a process.
I know.
So if you guys could.
We will
figure
get
out
on it. We will get on
So
it.
that way you could have more people.
It has definitely been like something that we have talked about and we know we need to get to. It's just,
Mhm.
we got to get it done. But you're right. Thank you for bringing that up. Community ed.
Matt. Haven't met.
Oh, sorry. Finance committee,
Have not met.
LPAC.
we met and basically everything that you approved is what we talked about.
Yep. That's about it.
That's pretty much it.
Facilities.
Have not met, but I'll talk about it in my report.
Okay.
One piece of it.
Library committee.
Have not met, but I know Teresa and I have been talking about probably setting up a meeting here soon. Who is that person on the committee? Was that Renee?
It was Renee.
So do we have,
Yes, okay.
Well, who took Renee's seat?
she's not making eye contact with us.
Yeah.
So. Nellie, do you want to continue serving in?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay,
Yes, okay. Thank
She
you,
was on
Nellie.
finance too. But just as a, I think she was on finance too, but it was also a good way just to learn kind of. Really. We don't have to do numbers.
SMEC board.
You got your update in the email.
Yeah.
There's stuff going on over there. Greenhouse, they're trying to build a greenhouse. They got a lot of kids over there.
Mhm.
Lots.
Yeah. Is the well finally all good and?
Since I haven't
Water.
heard for about
Yeah,
40
I-
days, and I'm assuming it's good.
Okay,
I don't know how many actual wells they dug, but 4, I think it was,
That's a
so.
lot.
all right. Financial report, Bradley.
All right.
I can't co-share you, co-host you.
And?
Mm-mm.
How about you just enable screen sharing?
I'll just make you the host. How about that?
Going live on my. All right, good evening. I have for you financial reports. Those of you out in Zoom land, I don't think there's anybody, but those are there. And if you can see on the TV on those really, really small things, those are there. Otherwise, board members, you've got your packets in front of you there. The financial report is through September, so we're finally into the kind of normal operations of things going. 2 payrolls for our teaching staff, and all of our non-certified staff are working and getting paid through September. So as you look at percentages in comparison to budget, you can see we're clicking right along. Revenues actually a little ahead of where we've been some other years, so that's a nice thing to have going. And we'll keep monitoring that over the course of the year. In terms of expenditures, we really haven't done any of the big one-time things like a school bus yet. Jamie will talk about the guys working on the caulking. When we pay their bill, that'll put a big dent in one of these budget lines that all of a sudden will make some of those percentages look a little wonky. But for now, they're looking normal and straightforward. So flipping to the next page. In addition to getting our classrooms going, we've got food service rolling. From a revenue standpoint, it's still going to be a weird year for food service. We're not charging any kids. So normally this time of year, we've received thousands and thousands of dollars in payments from parents to fund their kids for the year. We won't have that, but we'll be getting bigger reimbursement payments from the state each time we submit, just because we'll have more kids that are getting free meals. So that first big payment will show up here in October. For community services, as we go over the course of the year, you're going to see that there's less activity than last year, because last year we had the Cubs Club going on, and that was part of the community services fund. So for now, that's going to look even more chill than it's been until we flip the switch on getting some of the adult activities going and those kinds of things. We did have strength and conditioning going on over the summer, so that's the bulk of the activity that you're going to see there. We paid out for the to Hush, who was hosting that strength and conditioning programming. So you'll see that in the bills. Any questions on those reports? All right, I'm going to flip over to the treasurer's report. See if Zoom will let me. Let's go. So September is a pretty good month for cash. We managed to pick up a couple $100,000 worth of cash, primarily in the general fund. So food service, not a good month for food service because we start paying staff and we get the revenues a little later. So it's a reimbursement model, and with as I mentioned, with not having the parent payments coming in right up front, that kind of changes the cash flow for food service a little bit. we were a restaurant, that would not work. But thankfully we
Kinda
got,
have an idea, Bradley, of what we might get in October?
I could look it up, but I
I
don't
just
off
didn't
the top
know
of my
if, like,
head, but
ballpark,
yeah.
if that was gonna change that number significantly, or?
It will be significant, that's for sure, but
Okay,
it's not necessarily gonna take us out of the hole,
okay,
but, but I do know that Janelle's filed for those
okay.
already, so, should be getting paid for those
Oh.
anytime. $34.60 for milk, that one I just saw. Came in on its very own payment. Anyway,
34.
yeah, $34.60. That's the reimbursement for our kindergarten milk program. It's just the things that they will send us a payment for all on its own are amazing sometimes. All right, so that's what I got on cash. Again, a good month for cash. Next up, I'll flip to payments. And let's see what jumps for me here. I mentioned Hush, that on the top of the second page, 3,450, that's strength and conditioning. Hardy Mechanical for 2,500 bucks. Those guys tracked down a whole bunch of plumbing problems that they were working on over the course of months. So that ended up being a big bill all at one time, but Riverbend Business Products, I'm kind of proud of this one. We got a new copier, and instead of leasing it, we bought it. So that's a big one there. So I'd love to have those Riverbend Business Products bills be much less every month than what they have been when we get to where we own all of our copiers. Let's see. Yeah, I'll just highlight US Foods. That's our primary food service vendor. So when we get the new year started, that's 10 grand right there to get us rolling. So that's build. There's also the credit card statement in your packet there if you want to look at it. So.
For Bradley, is there a motion to approve the financial report?
I'll make the motion.
Carl, is there a second? Brad, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Reports, presentations.
Thanks for having me tonight. I am Andrew Filletti with Smith Schaefer, and we are contracted to perform the audit for Lyle School District for the year ended June 30th, 2021. Tonight we'll walk through the PowerPoint. All the numbers in this PowerPoint come directly out of the issued audited book, financial statement. So if there's any question about any of the numbers, we'll be able to trace those directly back into it. We just think the PowerPoint is a little bit better history. See the charts, things going up and down. It's a little bit easier to present on than me walking through the financial statement. I did sit down with Bradley and Jamie and did go through it in more line by line detail. And Krista as well. They got the long version. You guys get the abbreviated version tonight. So if there's any questions about that, we can discuss that. But if we flip the second page there, our audit is a clean, unmodified opinion, which means we believe everything is fairly stated in accordance with GAAP. It is reasonable, not absolute assurance that the financial statements are free from material misstatements. Reasonable, not absolute, because we do take a risk-based approach and make our selections based off the perceived risk. With that said, any supporting documentation that we did request as part of our testing was provided to us. So your accounting records throughout the year were in very good shape. And we did not have any adjustments to those financial statements or the numbers. Also included in that is our Minnesota legal compliance, which is a requirement. We have to do some testing on making sure there's no conflict of interest, so your public funds have adequate collateral, any contracting and bidding, any bonds are all in accordance with the Minnesota legal compliance. We did not have any findings related to those. Internal control, we do not have any findings related to that. Student activity compliance, there's no findings related to that as well. Then our audit committee letter just says there is some use of estimates such as depreciation, net pension liability, some of those state receivables of some of those funding sources are not final until after we do issue. We believe they're materially correct at that time. We did not have any disagreements with management. There was no new auditing standards that were required in the current year. We did request the management representation letter that was signed and returned to us saying that they provided all information to us that was requested. On slide 3, then we look at your average daily membership. We look at this just because so much of your revenues and expenditures are derived from the students that are at the school district. So this is kind of what we'd expect to see in the trends. So total average daily, adjusted average daily membership was about 314 this year, down about 6 from the prior year. Most of that decrease was due to the out of district students, as the in district remained up a little bit from the prior year. Looking ahead to page slide 4, then there's revenues for all your funds. So the first grouping there is going to be your property taxes, second grouping is state aids, followed by federal aids, and then other. So total revenues on the right there about $5,179,000. That is up about 500,000 from the prior year. If we look at the different categories there, you can see property taxes on the left. In the black, there's up about 330,000. This is the first year of that referendum and the additional funds coming in. So about 880,000 coming in for property taxes. State aids brings in about 3.7 million. 2.9 million of that is your general education aid. So that went up about $64,000 in total from state aids. The other big increase this year was the federal aids. As you can see in that third group in there, that was up about 190,000, mostly related to the COVID and different CARES grants that you're able to receive in Title I, and also the food service being on the summer food program, getting that higher reimbursement rate throughout the year. Did bring in some more federal revenues. And then the others in the far right was down about 80. Some of that is opposite of food service. We're not charging since everybody was on the free program, so we did not bring in revenues related to that. And then the out-of-state tuition with the out-of-district revenue for student numbers being down was down a little bit as well. A different way of looking at how the district was funded. On the left is going to be the 2021 numbers that funded the current year. Again, when I say current, that's going to be your prior year. You're always a year back. And then the 2020 year is on the right. So you can still see the largest portion of the funding does come from the state at about 71%. That is down about 6%. That's just some of those other categories did increase, such as the property taxes went up to 17%, up from 12%. So the federal is also up 3%. Next, we look at your property tax levy history. So the second from the right is going to be the one that funded the 2021 school year. We can see that this was the first year of the referendum. As we saw, the blue is going to be your general operating. The green is going to be any of the debt service, property tax levy, and the small portion for community service. So we saw the big jump in our property taxes, as we did see in our revenues as well. And then our one funding the 2022 for school year is pretty consistent with the same 2020. Next, we'll look at your total expenditures across all funds. So we have different categories across the bottom. Administration was down about 45,000. Most of that was related to health insurance. The main grouping there is the regular instruction. So that was up about 88,000. Most of that increase is related to salary and benefits. And it is the largest portion of where your expenditures do go back into the students and those teaching and those supplies needed for that. Community education, kind of right in the middle there. Well, the fifth grouping was up about 30,000. You did have the clubs wage in there and some of the after-school care programs, so we did see a little bit higher wages related to that. Instructional support, fourth from the right, but some iPads and technology related to some of the distance learning, so there was some additional cost related to that. The pupil services, pupil support, third category from the right, purchase of vans, so that's about 30,000 in there, so that was up as well. Their categories are relatively consistent. So total expenditures were about 4,685,000. Prior year expenditures were about 4,515,000, so up about 170,000 in total, but your revenues were up about 500,000. We break down to each individual fund then on slide 8. We have the revenues in the blue color, expenditures in the gray, and then any other financing sources that are coming in, and the change in fund balance in the green. So the revenues in the blue are up about 450,000 in the general fund, about 350,000 related to levy, and then the federal was the other increase. We did receive some of those COVID and CARES grants, and then also some of the additional Title I funding as well. Our expenditures were up about 240,000 as we had some of those CARE grants that were required to be spent as well. So we had iPads, additional salary and wages, costs and benefits, and then the van is all included in that. And then the green is up about 486,000, so that went into our fund balance. So between 2020 and 2021, we've added about 770,000 to our fund balance. So a little over $1 million is in fund balance. So let's flip ahead to slide 9. There's 3 main categories of where those fund balances are kept. The blue is going to be your unassigned fund balance. So about 626,000 in that, or that's about 16% of your current general fund expenditures. So you do have a healthy, keeping to build up a healthy reserve in your general fund. The green is going to be assigned fund balances. So we'll look at, we have a slide of where those assigned fund balances are. About 226,000 in assigned, just under 200,000 in the restricted and non-spendable. Next slide does show where our restricted funds are kept. So it's going to be the blue categories in each of these funds. So operating capital has about 32,000, 31,000. Safe School Basic Skills has about 25,000. LTFM has about 45,000. And then student activities on the far right has about 20,000. So as you can see, we spent down some of our operating capital in the current year, and then we are starting to build up some of the LTFM fund balance or restricted fund balance. On slide 11, then we look at your general fund assigned fund balances. So the purple category here is going to be the 2021 balances. So in total, this is about 226,000. 200,000 is assigned for transportation, about 15,000 for future ready, and about 8,000 for private sources. Next, we look at your food service fund. So revenues in the blue, expenditures in the yellow. So we did increase our revenues by about 5,000 of being in that summer food program. Our expenditures were also up about 4,000. So we did use about 21,000 of our fund balance in food service fund in the current year. So we did operate at a deficit. In 2020, we did do the transfer in to zero the deficit fund balances. You're allowed to carry a deficit for 2 years in food service before a transfer coming in from the general fund is for that. So slide 13 shows where the food service fund balances are. So you can see that it's been zeroed out in 2018 and 2020, and then we carry a deficit in the other years. So deficit of about 21,000. Next, we go to the community service fund. So the revenues in the blue here are up about 53,000, and we had some CARES grants and COVID dollars going into these. And then there was also some additional ECFE funding. Our expenses were also up about 29,000 as we had some school-age childcare salaries, the club salaries, and then some supplies to run that program as well. We still operated at excess in the community service fund of about 25,000. So we have a total fund balance on the next slide of 15 of about 120,000. So that community service fund is broke up into 3 different categories or 4 categories. On the next slide, you can see where those funds are held. So there's about 33,000 in community education. ECFE has about 78,000. School readiness about 5,000, and then just regular restricted community service about 3,000. Slide 17 then is our debt service fund. So just under 100,000 set aside for future debt service payments. The next slide that we do show, take your adjusted average daily membership of that 314 students that we talked about and divide them by the total cost of the different programs to get a per ADM cost. So the district and school admin and support services are just over $1,700 per ADM. The green category is going to be districts with ADMs of 0 to 499, and then the state average in the yellow. They are prior year numbers. That's the latest information that we have to compare to. So you guys are a little bit higher, but pretty close with $100 of districts of similar size. So you're right on pace to where different costs are spent, or the districts of similar size are spending their dollars. Slide 19 then spent about just over $5,400 on regular instructions. So you are right at districts of similar size, a little bit under that, right at the state average. So money is being spent back into the students and teachers. Next one that we look at per ADM is your special education. So not necessarily the best indicator to compare across different districts, just because special ed is so specialized and it can vary from district to district, but just to let you guys know where you are, the districts of similar size are pretty much right at districts of similar size and a little bit below that state average per ADM for special education. People support services a little bit higher in the current year. Most of that is related to the van purchase. So pretty much right at the state average and then a little bit above districts of the same similar size. Last one there, the sites and buildings, about $1,250 per ADM, pretty consistent with the prior year, right at the, or under the districts of similar size and in between the state average. Slide 23 then is if you take your total cost for your general fund and divide it for that per ADM, we're spending about $12,435 per ADM. Districts of similar size are spending $13,147 and right at the state average. Food service cost per ADM, you are below districts of similar size and state average. Just the revenues are not keeping costs with some of those, keeping pace with some of those costs in that food service category. And then we'll just end with a brief summary there. The general fund increased fund balance by about $486,000 in the current year. The UFAR's unassigned general fund balance at June 30th, 2021 is at $626,000, about 16% of the current general fund expenditures. The food service fund expenditures revenue by about $21,625 for the year and did end the deficit with that balance. And the community service fund revenues exceeded expenditures by about $25,000 and ended the year with about $120,000 in fund balance. So I went through a lot of numbers pretty quickly there. Is there any questions or comments?
Thank you for your work on this. It's great to be started and done sooner and managed to get just ahead of our bond issuance too. So that's great timing. So
Thank you guys in the administration for allowing us to do it remote as we're still working through different COVID times and working with us so we could get everything done efficiently. So thanks for being flexible with us.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there a motion to accept the audit? Krista, is there a second? Sad, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Item B, approve resolution ratifying the sale of the general obligation school funding referendum bonds. Building. Go ahead, sorry.
Good evening, I'm back. So, we took bids this morning for the refunding of the outstanding or the callable maturities in the 2012 A bonds this morning at 10 a.m. And we actually were within $500 of our resale estimate. So which is pretty good. I mean, typically we like to be a little, the better we can get, the better, but that was about 224,000 in future value savings, so about $25,000 a year, starting right away with taxes payable 22 that the district taxpayers will save on the outstanding debt service for the bond. So really good news to share there. It's about 4.96% present value savings over the remaining term of the bonds. And overall, we had 3 bids, and the winning bidder was BOK Financial Securities out of Milwaukee, with the other 2 bidders being Northland Securities and then Baird, Milwaukee as well. And that winning rate was 1.24%. So the true interest cost for the remaining term of the bonds is going to be right about a little bit shy of 1.25% going forward. So I think we have outstanding news to share there. This is a ratifying resolution tonight, so we actually did officially award with the signature that happened right before the meeting, because we did have a parameter in place that was adopted at your May 19th meeting. If we met at least 92,000, and we surpassed that by quite a bit, obviously, that it would be awarded by Jamie and then a board officer. So with that, I can answer any questions folks have. There's a lot of information in this report that I'm not going to go into depth on, but if anybody has any specific questions about the bond sale process or any of the documents within, please let me know.
No, that's great.
That is great news. Yeah.
Were we happy with 3?
Yeah, so typically we
Yeah, I
like
was
to
just
have
wondering.
at least 3 bidders.
yeah.
So having at least 3, we had 4 actually signed up, but
Okay.
Piper fell off before
I
took
was-
bids at 10 a.m. this morning.
I was curious, that's what I wanted, how many bidders we thought we would have.
Yeah.
They're in demand up there.
Yeah,
They want us to issue more bonds.
right.
Good luck.
Yeah, so there was a
We'll give
rating.
them
You
lots.
actually did get an underlying rating as part of the process, and Bradley and Jamie went through the interview call, and your underlying rating is an A2, or which would be a single A from the standpoint of S&P. So you have a Moody's rating, which is a good rating, really good rating. It's considered medium grade, which for a district your size with the things that kind of you don't have going against you from the standpoint of enrollment size and geographic area and those types of things that some of the metro school districts have. I think your rating came in very favorable, and when the underwriters look to bid on the bonds, they look at that as part of the process for evaluating as well. So
Good news.
Good.
really good news.
Yeah.
One of the things I wanted to highlight is, I don't know if you can see over here, but we got, basically we'll have about $4 million that we're sitting on for about 3 months. So be working tomorrow to try to find somewhere to put that. Maybe I can get, 0.2 or 0.15 or something. If I just stick it in the bank, it's gonna be 0.03 or something. So I'm hoping to find something I can put it in for a couple months. That's
Yeah, when's that?
So you'll see the closing date is November 10th.
Yeah.
So that's when the district will have the funds, and then those funds will have to be
right.
sent back to the paying agent slightly before February 1st.
Diamond Jones?
Wow.
Oh, Carl.
Let's keep you not being the treasurer. Vice President.
Relax.
You keep doing you.
Yeah.
Said I'm relaxed.
I'll take care of that. Let's-
Do we just need a motion, or do I have to read anything, or is
So-
there a
So you
resolution?
can
or-
just read that whole context on the ratifying resolution.
Let me pull that up. I gotta switch.
Yeah.
It's a pretty
Alright.
extensive resolution, but you don't have to read the whole part of it.
Yeah, our friends at Kennedy and Graven have prepared for us our resolution with all the stuff that Dave's got to sign. It is 22 pages of stuff here, so.
And if you're gonna read the whole thing, you gotta do it in your best Norwegian accent.
Does anybody actually read it? I'm curious, you know, some
I've
boards are a
actually
lot more
sat-
formal than we are.
I've sat through one where board chair read through the whole thing.
Oh,
All 22 pages.
I would
oh,
Took 15
I would have had a
minutes or so.
letter of resignation.
right? I need to be gone
Yeah.
that night.
This one will say our minutes are here we go.
Yeah, right there.
Okay, so I just need to,
Definitely the header.
You get your cheaters out.
I've got I've got everything right here.
I can go in a couple more.
No, we're
clicks there
good.
if you're-
Resolution ratifying the sale of general obligation school building referendum bonds, series 2021A in the original aggregate principal amount of $3,875,000. Fixing their form and specifications, directing their execution and delivery, and providing for their payment. I don't have to read any of that.
No, we're gonna not read the rest of it.
Okay,
And then it's a roll call vote.
Yeah.
okay. Is there a motion for approval?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Carl, is there a second?
I'll second.
Krista, roll call vote. Chad?
Aye.
Nellie?
Aye.
Krista?
Aye.
Aye. Carl?
Aye.
Dave?
Yeah.
All right.
For the
6
sake of
ayes.
argument, I'll scroll. all the way.
Okay,
Kind of the credits at the end of the movie.
yeah.
Yeah, that's what it feels like.
Can you imagine having to read that?
One, again, thank you for the opportunity. It wasn't without insignificant amount of time. There is a lot to get this to market, especially from these two guys right here that had to go through the rating process, get the official statement set up, and all the legwork that is involved in that. So it went smooth and how we expected it to go, but it's not without some work with your folks on staff.
All right, thank you, everyone, for all your help.
And thank you to
Appreciate
dealers
it.
for
Yes,
putting it in the chute.
absolutely.
Yeah.
That's what it takes is, I certainly would never be able to find banks to say, hey, let's buy these bonds. That's way out of my comfort zone. So thanks to you guys for lining all of it up and all the paperwork and all the things. So that's a lot of
Thank you.
things in there. So
Yeah, and the only other thing to note is we did put a call date on this, so there is 3 callable maturities. So if for some reason rates were really low way out in the future, this bond would actually have another opportunity to be refunded at that time. So something for us to continue to watch as we move forward. That's the only other thing to note from that perspective. So,
Sounds good.
okay,
Thank you.
thank you guys.
Thank you.
Enjoy
right.
the homecoming tonight.
No, thank God, no.
So,
That's home meeting season.
yeah.
All right, Jamie,
All right.
thank you.
Just a few items. The caulking project started about a week ago. They even came in on a Saturday. What they're doing is they basically
Tell us.
got everything in between the panels. They aired it out.
That's awesome.
It was, if your room was where they were working, it was rather loud, but they did a good job of avoiding that when the kids are in the room. It's amazing when you look into one of those holes, how deep it was, but they've been making progress, and actually the red, I don't know if you've noticed, it actually
Yeah.
does look really nice. I think over time it'll fade and
I
you
think that
won't
was
notice
the
it.
original color
Probably was.
of the building.
Again, it blends nicely.
Oh, no,
It's
yeah.
so
Yeah.
good, so-
Yeah. Now I'm glad we went with that because I think the other one would have stood out a lot more. The other color was what they use on the roof, and that went pretty smooth. Yeah, thank you to the Legacy and the kids for their sliming. I will say that one thing I realized, we all know the showers in the building are not great. I can personally vouch for that. I actually I've talked to Tarek about some options about that, because at this rate, I understand why they haven't been used for years. So I might have more to report on that next month. The The Bradley and Corey and I met extensively at the end of September to work through the ESSER fund, the grant. I mean, was want to call out a couple people who came to the executive council meetings and gave us input. Besides the three of us, Nellie, Chad, as board members, the teachers were Julian Flink, Brittany Folk, Julia Heimer was in that one, Jamie Donaldson, community members Amanda Frank, Lorraine Prindle, and then we had a student, Jaden May. It was actually a very good conversation, a lot of good points. So basically, it kind of comes down to kind of two different funds, and Bradley can explain this way better than I can, but one is kind of a learning loss time, and what one of that is, it's 20% of the amount. That's going to go to some summer classes, SMEC Academy, some before and after school classes over the next 3 years. So we got to get creative on how we do those things, but and talk to further with the teachers. Haven't talked to them yet because they've got plenty on their plate. The other part is the 80%. We've kind of narrowed it down to a behavioral interventionist or a coach to kind of assist, kind of be that third quasi. It won't be an administrator, but really more of a person to help with teachers with behaviors and kind of take more of the lower level issues. Also middle school interventions, interventionists, field trips. The teachers we met high school wise. A couple years ago, we talked about the advisory program that we have in the high school. It's not working as well as we intended. And we thought we made some tweaks. It's still, so there might be a few more changes. And I think the middle school interventionist possibly will definitely come into play on how that person's used for that. So, so more of the information to come there. Like I said, the changes that might come with the advisory, it might be some tweaking of the schedule that I don't think needs to get board approval, but I will keep you abreast on that, which is tweaking of the schedule. The actual 8 to 3, I don't foresee that ever us recommending any changes on that, but just the 7-day kind of fitting in some advisory with teachers having actual direct time with those kids and actually devoted just to advising and helping, you know, making up some stuff. So with some of the issues that kind of surface is you know, some behaviors obviously, but really the students, there are some who are just not the stamina from kindergarten all the way to the seniors, just the stamina of being in school 100% versus last year where it was intermixed. And this is happening across districts. So some of the things we're looking at how we can make that changes before second quarter, which is in less than 3 weeks or something like that. So today I met with Area Soups in Rochester. Couple of things that are really, it felt on some aspect, it felt a little depressing to be there, to listen to what at the state level, what the, you know, the overall job market, the overall, you know, funding mechanism across the state as well, how that money, how the legislator is kind of, the political game, I guess, is where I'm going. It's depressing to listen to. But on the flip side of that, just a couple things also came up just that I'm going to go over. Issues about how compensatory dollars, you know, the free and reduced paperwork that people fill out because the lunches are free. Parents are more in other districts than here, but they're much more reluctant to fill it out because they're going to get the free lunches.
Yeah,
So other schools have been hit really hard, and actually MASA is really pushing legislators to just come up with a different plan so it's not based on a signed document. We couldn't get people to sign it beforehand. Now it's even worse. Just the overall hearing the stories about board related issues. Our community has been supportive for the most part, overwhelmingly, about how our safe learning plan, the people have been overly respectful of it. It's not the case in other districts. We have board members resigning, you know, being threatened, things damage to their house over issues across the state. So, you know, I think that's a shout out to our community for their support. So Other issues about equity. And last thing, I think, Carl, you'll remember this name. Do you remember a name by a guy? I can say this, I think, Mr. Dorr, does that ring a bell?
Oh,
Yes, I
Okay.
do.
Oh, yeah.
So there is
I remember very well.
I had to do, and I've actually dealt with the guy in another district. But he was a gentleman who did not like building referendums, so he would advertise, market.
Remember that?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
It got ugly. Well, what other schools are seeing across the state is that Rochester specifically, that there is a campaign of similar like where they're coming in and asking for data privacy stuff, ranging from emails to all the stuff, and districts are having to spend hundreds of thousands of dollars to provide data privacy, things that are public, and having to go through and redact names and emails, literally to hand them a piece of paper that they probably throw away. So I just want to forewarn you guys, I'm gonna look at our data privacy policy. We probably will need to review that. I'll send it to you guys, I think, just to, it's ridiculous. So you might even see it more in the news. It's happening in the bigger districts, but we want to keep that from us. I mean, the amount of time that two of us would spend on that would be ridiculous. So I hope we don't ever have to deal with that, but other schools in the region are being hit with that. So I mentioned his name just because it's what we equated to that today. That's what
Yeah.
it's basically a
Yeah,
waste of taxpayers.
Create a little
money.
chaos.
Yep.
Yep.
Create some
And that's what,
chaos.
there are groups across the state that are basically forming to wreak havoc in board meetings, in school districts, basically for their own jollies, basically. So just give you a heads up on that. So
And there really is nothing that we could change from a policy standpoint that could prevent any of that.
I know, but they did ask us to review it and see if there's any, make sure we have the most updated date one, if there's anything in there that we want to add. So but legislative,
Yeah.
we asked Massa to basically go to the legislator and say, you guys need to help us do something so that this is a waste. So some of them were talking about just going straight to the news, state, national news that are saying, this is how these companies are wasting taxpayers' money. And where we should be spending time in the class, attention to our students, they're having to do other things. So it was really, like I said, it was kind of I wanted to be it was good that I went, but rather depressing, because it makes you wonder why people even do what you do or do what we do sometimes. It really is like, oh,
I often wonder.
so it's
There's
just.
a lot of
but-
frustration out there and a lot of
Yeah.
people, but you have to focus on those
The good stuff.
Yep.
right
And-
moments, and
And
that's what you
the,
have to feed
Yeah.
on.
we definitely can count our blessings that, things are going well here. And
Yes.
Right.
they're not perfect
Oh,
by any
no.
means, but comparison to what other
Our
districts
support,
are.
our community support has
yes.
been
Yes.
outstanding compared to a lot of
Yes,
places, so.
so,
We
Very
haven't had a
thankful
riot
for
over
that.
mask mandate,
Great.
nope.
Yep.
That'd be awful.
So that in the other two topics I'll bring up later in the
All right, thank you,
discussion, so.
Jamie. Corey?
Today was Unity Day. I know someone asked me why I was wearing orange. So it was something that one of our teachers for elementary student council puts out there. It's pretty much elementary led, but all of our students K-12 participated in it. So if you actually, when you leave, if you head down the hall, you'll see what they finished today. So that was awesome. It is bullying awareness and just talking about inclusion, kindness, acceptance, things like that. We have our staff development on Monday and it's supposed to be SMEC wide, but I'm a part of that committee that plans it, and we decided we're not meeting SMEC wide with all the teachers from all the districts coming in, just because we're still in a pandemic. So we're actually just going to be housed here in our building for us, and we're doing some assistive technology training, which is something that we're going to be really pushing with some of our students, especially some of our students who are struggling, just to provide the training for our teachers so that some of our students will have easier access to learning. We're still going forward with our Veterans Day breakfast, which is also held by our elementary student council. Tonight, right now, is our 612 conferences on Zoom. Our elementary is also going to be on Zoom, and that will be in November. We are going to have, if teachers need to meet in person with the parents, they are going to invite those parents in. Otherwise, we're just going to stick with Zoom. for that as well. And then Bradley, you're going to love to hear this. Homework Connections is beginning on Tuesday. We're starting, so it doesn't turn into a daycare babysitting situation. We are starting with invite first. So teachers are looking at their classes to see the greatest need there for students who might be struggling. And then we're going to start bringing it out with, if families are noticing their kids are needing more support, then we're going to kind of push it out there. So we're going to start small so that we're not overwhelmed, because then we can provide good support to our students. And right now, this is starting K6, because we just didn't have a lot of middle school, high school interest yet to have anyone lead it. That's what I have.
All right,
Can
thank
I ask a
you.
question?
Oh,
You know, we were talking about different class sizes that, and why, you know, how we ended up splitting sixth grade. And that second grade is still on that border, and it's a big class with a lot of testosterone and a lot of behaviors in it. I'm wondering, how close are we monitoring that? And does she have a full-time support? Is she getting everything that she needs to actually be able to instruct these children? I also know, yeah, there's
I know,
there's a
so
lot.
if we're looking at class numbers alone, it's actually gone down.
Okay,
And there's potential it's going down more.
Okay.
As far as support, we did just, and you approved another hire.
Mhm.
So how we're going to utilize that person is we have one para between first and second,
Mhm.
and she does work with both grade levels and our special education. So we're going to look at the schedule, and I actually just talked to our teacher about this today. Look at the schedule and see what hours or what time of the day she's not in there, and then our new hire is going to be in there as well as title.
Okay.
So and then we have our social worker who's been pushing in the last couple days as well, a little bit more.
Okay.
So
I just want to make sure that, yeah, Danny's supported,
mhm.
period. And whatever teacher who's, if they're having
Right.
struggles and, you know, behaviors,
Yeah.
and we need to make sure that they're well supported.
All right, thank you, Corey. Items for action and discussion. A, consider the approval of increasing substitute teacher daily wage.
All right, our current rate for teachers is 120. I believe that's been in play for a few years. Brad and I have talked about the possibility of increasing that. It's been discussed even at the SMEC level, just comparison. I would like to recommend, we've kind of debated going from 120 to 125 or 130. Subbing is increasingly problematic. When we were at the SMEC meeting last week, we were the only school that actually that we've actually had an influx of subs. So that's a good thing. We've got people coming in where other districts are literally hurt. They don't have anybody,
Right.
but I'd like to keep that. There's another school within SMEC that last night approved, moved to 130. So I would like to be just proactive in recommending 130 so that we can keep these. We have some good subs. We definitely do. It's not easy to be a sub to come in completely blind. And so, you know, Heather does a fantastic job every day to coordinate that. Sometimes it's the first thing she does when she wakes up. So, you know, just when we don't, the teachers are having to jump in. Corey has substantially, her time is used sometimes to sub. Periodically, I will do that. And so it just, anything we can do to keep ourselves competitive. So I'm recommending 130.
Is there a motion to approve increase to 130 for sub pay?
Can I ask that you also specify an effective date? on this?
Yes.
Oh,
Oh, yeah, okay.
when would you like the date?
Well, we haven't paid anyone for anything October 1st or later yet. So that October 1st would be nice.
Okay, so a motion to approve effective October 1st.
I'll second that.
Thank you, Kristen. All those in favor, say aye. Aye, opposed? B, consider approval of myself as the 2021 homecoming summer advisor
After the fact.
after the
Well, no,
fact. 'cause,
you just can't.
Next meeting, you have to make.
I hope you
you have to
approve me
make it
because
for
it's
next
done.
meeting.
I thought that was a typo at first, like,
Yeah.
you should talk about for next
I
year,
know.
because isn't that done?
Yeah.
Well, we could do it that.
We are not
Oh,
approving for
okay.
next year, no, no,
So good.
nope.
We just do 100.
I'll make a motion for that.
Krista, is there a second?
I'll second it.
Carl, I will abstain from this vote. All the rest in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
There's only one opposed.
Carl.
Yeah.
Item C, consider the approval of Judd Nelson as the junior high boys basketball coach for the 21-22 school year. Is there a motion to approve?
I will make the motion.
Carl, is there a second?
Second.
Chad, I will abstain from that as well. All the rest in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Item D, consider the options for the junior senior trips.
So several years back, the board at that time changed the senior trip to a junior senior DC trip. And of course, COVID amongst everything else it did, it ruined that opportunity for last year's seniors and this year's seniors, I guess, to go on that last spring. And so two items that I'm asking for tonight just is the blessing for this year, the senior class. I've talked to them. They would like to do something. They understand they missed out on the DC trip. Last year, I granted the seniors to go to the Twin Cities. And for the most part, I think they enjoyed that. There were Orpheum, some parks, a day at the Valley Fair, amongst other things. So I haven't talked about any, they haven't asked if there's any other options, but they did request they would like to do that. The reason we need to know now is because there are some who have enough money to cover that pretty handily, but others will need to fundraise for that. Then the other option, Ms. Shepherd and I have talked so to stay in the cycle of every other year going to DC, that would be then next spring, because she has the international trip going to Europe this summer. There would not be enough time to do anything, for them for this year, especially a trip to DC. So one caveat with it, or one change, is they requested, could we also include something like New York to it? So Cynthia just reached out to the company that she works with, and that is called EF Tours. Last year, Mr. Hagan used Legacy. The biggest difference there's a couple of differences. This one is a little bit more expensive. Probably the 5-day trip is about, I don't have to, for some reason, did not rate. About 400 or 500. But the neat thing, they're flying, and they don't have to sit in a, so literally they spend a half a day from the airport to, we would have to bus them up to Minneapolis. They would fly. Once they get there, they would have their, they don't have to travel for 1,600 miles on a bus. They get picked up there. They may be connected with another school at that same hotel. They actually have school security at night. So someone on that floor for them. The breakfast, dinner is included, the hotel flights, tickets. So basically they would spend 3 days in DC and then travel by bus up to New York, which is about 4 hours. It's not too bad. And it would be about 2,100. If there is a 6-day option, which adds about to 23, but that's additional cost. And then the biggest caveat that from the long looking years beyond, the hardest part, as Mr. Hagan worked his tail off to try to get 30 people. And the negotiation he felt like he had to always go to them, and the best I can do is 23. And they were so eager to get the trip going that they're willing to comply with that. But with looking at the future years, to get 30 kids every 2 years, it's going to be challenging. This group, there is no minimum, as long as for every 10 students, you get one chaperone paid for. So,
I kind of like that.
I think
We don't
it
have-
sounds amazing.
Like, we don't have to
Yeah.
hit a number.
Yep.
Right,
Small
yeah.
school, it's hard to hit a number.
Right.
Yep.
Because we'll always be one or two short.
Ex-
Yep.
We will, we
Yeah.
just
Well-
always will be.
and the nice thing also is that we don't, once this one, the fundraiser or the payment is through to EF. So the parents are actually making the payment to them and not to the district.
Yeah.
So, I know.
Is
So
that
if
like
he
a
doesn't,
service
they don't have to, yeah,
Same
exactly.
company.
So
Yeah.
they
Is it the
don't-
same
It's the
company?
same
Yep.
company.
I was like, that
Yeah.
name sounds really familiar.
Yeah, it's the
So
same.
it's the fundraising stuff, and I have a question on that in a little bit too, but just we can still do our fundraising, but then it's paid to them, it's allocated to them, so a lot of the stuff that the spreadsheets that Bradley and Mr. Hagan went through, that's minimal now. So I'm excited for that, for the kids. There is a teacher that's interested in being the advisor for this.
Even better.
So
The kids were really excited when she was
Yeah,
presenting it to them. They were so excited.
yeah, definitely.
I would think
It's like-
New York would probably, that's probably what they,
Absolutely,
Drive.
right.
and then,
They could drive the bus ride.
yeah.
I
Wow,
know.
coach is
Yeah.
awful nice.
But
Still not that, that's
it's
still a
I was-
long way.
I was kidding.
on the way
Coach is
on the way
nice in
home,
Minneapolis, but
Yeah.
on the way home, it literally is.
Oh, that would be
You leave the
awful.
hotel and you
Oh.
just, it's
Oh, that'd be awful.
bathroom and McDonald's. That's pretty much it. Otherwise, you're just.
I would kind of like you to look into a little bit more maybe about the seniors and if they would like to venture out of just Minneapolis. I mean, I just, as someone who had a senior last year, they were happy to get the opportunity to do anything at that point in time. But I think they really probably would have loved to have gone to Chicago or something. And Chicago's, so many great opportunities in Chicago. And it's not that far. It's not that far.
Go to the Dells.
You chaperone? Carl.
Who's the
So if you
seniors?
could just look into that.
I need a list
I
of
think
who's
that would-
going before I would commit to that.
That list changes depending on where the trip is.
I know,
Yeah.
that's, I need
True.
to.
This is true.
Okay, I can certainly do that. Just,
Okay.
the one question I have for fundraising, and I don't know if we need to, if you guys just give me your head down, I can move forward with, I don't think we have to vote. But the question fundraising, a couple years back, it was mainly you two. There was discussion about fundraising and how you guys, at one, you wanted things, if we fundraise, it was gonna be, that was gonna benefit the area, not, and so we're, but was it the music, they are starting a fundraising, so I approved that, Corey did, liked it too, and it just the question a couple years ago was the fear of so many door-to-door sales. So how would you guys, do you want us to pay attention to that, caution it, and then if we feel it's getting out of hand, or
So what are they doing here?
they're
So
selling
they want to go,
candles?
what they want to do is they want to take their kids to the Chanhassen Dinner Theater.
Okay,
Okay.
And it costs X amount of dollars.
Yeah.
And so they are working through the candle company in St. Ansgar, and 50% of the sales goes directly to the music club.
Oh, okay.
And then with that, they're hoping to raise enough money so that all the kids can go free of cost. That's everything, to a matinee, and then they'll go during the school day for our music kids. And I saw the flyer today. I want like 5 of them. Like, they're incredible. They look amazing.
They're, yeah,
And it's something different. That's what's so great.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
for these, they will be in mid-November, so they're great Christmas presents as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah.
So.
The caution a couple years ago was, and that's why we will have that. The international club is selling stuff. with
Yeah,
these.
I
So
know.
I just, that's the caution. I'm like, is it a lot of things all at once? So
Right.
prepare you guys also in case you get complaints on that. Or
It is
what
what it
guidance do you guys want to
Yeah.
provide for
I
us?
think, I think it'll be okay because it's something so different, it's not like you're having another person coming around selling more food or, something like that. I don't know.
We're having music concerts, right?
Mm-hmm.
What would be the thought of,
putting a booth up now.
exactly,
And
and
actually,
that would
is one of the things they
decrease,
want
I mean,
to
you got
do
all everybody coming, and it does decrease your door to door
Mhm.
per se. But then you could,
I know they want to put out a free will donation bucket at music concerts with the information as to why that bucket is there, because we don't charge anything for
Right.
music concerts. You go to Austin High School, you're paying tickets to go in. So,
really, That seems crazy.
Geez, I would never
For like the
go.
Austin area. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean.
It'd be pretty lame as a parent.
Thoughts like that,
Yeah.
yeah. I know we have this
I would be
fantastic
paid for a
laser
football
engraver
game.
that we spent a lot of money
I
on
don't
that does
know, I would-
fantastic things that
Actually,
If it's your.
Could
kid, you're
to
gonna
be
do it.
honest,
there-
I don't know.
be items that could
Kind of
be
like a
created.
silent auction style thing.
That could
Wow.
be made and that could go as part of a fundraiser, silent auction, or just things that people just simply want to buy, whether it's Lyle stuff
Right,
or just
yeah.
other things or great crafts for Christmas and things,
Right.
you know, that kind of stuff. People buy that stuff and
Yeah.
we'll support.
Let's
the
sell
school.
stuff until we get complaints.
But it's
So,
not, I'm just saying that it's
I
not
mean-
door to door, is
Yeah.
my point.
I have one other item to interject into this. I got looped in on this yesterday afternoon. I haven't really had time to process it yet, but they're looking to fundraise about $2,000. We could fund that too. So,
Well, the only thing it's a privilege to go on this, you know, so, you know.
What about all the
Well, if they're
other
going
groups?
during the school day,
Yeah,
then
you're
it
you
technically
mean
is.
like
funding
football and
that.
basketball and softball and baseball and all the other groups that we already fund to do things?
I think
But
they'll
do we
raise,
fund
I
them
think
to
they'll
like
raise
go
it.
to a Twins game, or, I mean, I'm really asking, do we fund them for that though?
Not necessarily, but we do spend a lot to transport those groups around.
My suggestion to them when, because they came and talked to me about it too, and I said, start with fundraising, see what
Yeah.
you get, and then wherever we're lacking,
Yeah,
Right.
but-
missing, then we'll go
Then we-
forward with it.
yeah,
I-
And
We
maybe
can be
that's a
the
Wild
disability-
Legacy thing.
I
because
I think
On a
they'll,
lot
I
of
think they'll
I
do really
actually
well
have-
with it.
I
I think it'll go over
$1,000
really well.
budgeted for band and $500 budgeted for choir for field trips.
Yeah.
So getting to $2,000 is really not much here if this is where they want to go. In the past,
Yeah.
we spent some of that money on a couple kids would go down to a Dorian festival or something like that. You know, or I don't know, Julia's working on getting the band, doing all sorts of things, you know, she's got visions, you know, but that could be the marching band going here or there or whatever, you know,
But right
there's
now-
all sorts of ways to spend that kind of money.
but right now it's going to Chanhassen.
Yeah, I mean, but one of the ways to build your program is to go see good performances.
Mhm.
So,
Make it fun, make kids want to be.
Yeah, no, I understand why. So we have
That
to
sounds
decide if we're gonna
fantastic.
spend that money that's budgeted for that, or,
well, and we could decide to spend more than that. too.
Well, yeah.
But- So like, and then could we have them still do fundraising and focus it on something like, you know,
Other things they need.
equipment that they want to have and, you know, that
no, that's a good
this is a
point.
small enough ask that as I'm processing it, we're talking about going through all the hassle
For
of
$2,000.
selling candles.
For 2,000.
Yeah, and it's $2,000. And I'm like,
Right, it's not.
we got $2,000, you know, we can pull off $2,000. In terms of other groups coming out of the woodworks with similar asks, who is it? You know, who's
Right.
coming?
No one.
Like that. I personally think the music program in the school has just not gotten attention and, you know, just
Yeah.
teachers haven't been available. And it hasn't been what, you
Right,
know, it could be for a lot of years now.
I agree.
I think you
Do
guys
it.
should cover it.
Right.
It's fun to,
And if they
Do
want,
it.
Let's
if
just do
they
it,
want to do a fundraiser with the candles, which I think is going to be a good sell.
then put it in the account.
Yeah,
Put it in-
Something else.
I think so too. It's just
Yeah.
added, I mean,
Let's do it that way.
Do
If
it.
they wanna sell something, then put money somewhere
Well,
else.
RS or dollar grant. Field trips. would
if it's
also-
in the summer, we can do field trips and we've got grant money for that, but not for during the school year. Because, you know, that would make sense for us. You know,
That
what-
would make sense.
They've picked through, we've got a list about this long of grants. And a bunch of them have strings on them that,
Also
well, you
let
can
them
do
know they
this,
can
but
plan
only in the
one.
summer.
In mid-June.
Yeah,
yeah,
I personally think it'd be nice to get to the point where we've got some drums at the football games again.
Yeah,
just
that'd be
something-
absolutely.
something
I
live
think
and
that
everything, but
that's her
Yeah.
plan.
Yes.
But it's just, we haven't had band for so long.
Oh, yeah.
And those-
a lot of work to do.
Oh,
interest.
I would guess
It's gonna be
9 through
3 or 4 years.
12, there's no hope for that group, for band. This is how I feel about it.
Just don't have.
So-
to.
So
They just don't-
I've got
I
an
mean,
email here that I can respond to, and here's what I want to say. Chanhassen Dinner Theater is a go, you don't need a fundraise for that, the district's gonna cover it. That's number one. Number two, let's do the fundraiser. And let's look at that for band instruments and risers, which is what Haley's been gunning for. And oh, by the way, if you want to do any of these kind of trips in the summer, we actually have grant money for that right now.
Perfect.
Well, and I think a trip in the summer would bring more kids into the program too.
Yep.
Like keep their interest throughout the summer as well, because they
Yeah.
sign up before the next school year.
Right.
It's fantastic. You're gonna have some very, very happy individuals with that email.
Yeah.
And I think
Yeah,
that's
I like to make
fantastic.
people happy every
They
now and
need-
again.
they need that
You never
boost. I
make
think
me
that's great.
happy. Never.
Mm.
He
You
just
just did our half hour.
Yeah, you had told them.
Oh, that's right. I did. I did say
All right,
thank you.
so moving on, consider updates to the safe learning plan. Jamie.
So last month, we talked about our current plan. You guys asked us to, or asked me to work with Barb to figure out a number. The common number around around districts are that 5% rule, which is when in this MDH, if a class is at 5% of the student of the class has this, we have to report that to the state. So that number for us is about 15. Other districts have put them up. Some of them have, have them lower. So I've kind of thrown together some ideas. If we have a 15% across the district, then that's when we would either I would come to you guys again for a mask mandate, or I would just go ahead and move to a mask mandate. Perspective speaking, ask Barb, approximately how many students have had COVID this year so far? 8 since September.
Awesome. I mean,
That's
that's
Yeah.
good.
That's
Yeah.
really good.
So that would be what, 2%. Approximately how many students have it now? 2. How many students are close contacts to household positive? 9. That has been that's the one that I think hurts the most, just because
So that's like if Jake, I had COVID,
he would have to be home.
right?
Yeah.
Okay.
And that one, the problem is me last January where I couldn't come back until my stuff passed. So, and then the last one was how many students are close contacts to school positives now? 30. So those are the students who have been offered the quarantine or come and wear the mask.
Has that gone already? Wearing masks? I mean, I know there's some kids that whine about it,
There are some who do,
but I think they whine
but
about everything.
they, I mean,
They just need a gentle reminder.
they're playing the game. I
Oh,
hate to put it that way, but
They
that's kind
are,
of,
they are.
so this
God
was a.
bless you guys.
This was a big topic today, about how, if we were to move to an all-school district-wide mask mandate, what are the things to consider? Medical exemptions, religious exemptions. One thing that I was advised to ask of you guys, since who makes that decision? Obviously, that probably falls on me, but they did ask me to make that as you guys to make a resolution to say, or motion that said direct whoever to make that decision about the religious and medical. Basically, those are the ones that, because the hard part is if 300 kids are wearing their masks and we got 4 of them who are not, then we get asked, then the kids go home and Johnny's not wearing his mask, why not? And then you'll get called. So that's, it's difficult. The other thing is, during a mask return requirement, do we continue the quarantine option for close contacts, staff and students?
Like what we're doing now,
Yeah,
I'm okay with that.
do we
gotta keep kids in school.
give them the
I'm
options?
sorry.
I mean, because we can't give I'm just afraid of some kids or parents deciding, well, I'm not gonna wear masks. I don't have a religious or medical exemption, so I'm gonna call in and say I've been exposed. and then they're home for 2 weeks and they're doing the bare minimum. I know the teachers have shared that frustration, so, you know.
People are gonna play the game.
They are going.
Yeah, I know.
It's just, we're going to.
um,
I feel like our plan is reasonable, I guess.
Hearing other people talk about today about the issues that our numbers are relatively low. Some are substantial. It's weird how some districts are completely, they'll be neighboring districts. One is they've got all these issues, the classes are out, and then the next one is like, yeah, we have no issue. And it makes the ones who have the masks and stuff, they're like,
What's going on? Why us?
why are we, I don't know, it just
Right, yeah.
adds a whole different dimension of conversation.
Well, you look at Leroy's policy. If you have COVID, how long you're out for, that's probably why. Because everyone's policy is a little different.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah. And then the other one, like, then the question is about
2 days.
Carrie brought this up, you know, what do we do for the
Testing
classes?
positive, you have no symptoms.
Well, 5% of 20 is 1. You know, do
They
we
have a high rate.
do we make it a class rate if you have 5 in a class or grade level? 4, 3? I don't think we can go by a percentage at that point, you know. If they have it, they have to be out. So if one student has it, they come in, everyone else is wearing a mask, that one's out. You know, if another one goes out, where do we?
At what point do
You
you
say. the
Yeah.
cla-
For the whole
shut that
class.
class
Yeah.
down? Right,
I think you can do your 5% and 5%.
Right.
5%
But
of
that's
the
only,
class.
but that's only one student in a
Oh,
class.
really?
Oh, that's not,
yeah,
yeah.
so that you wouldn't wanna,
I don't know.
1.5.
I'm not
One
sure.
and a half
At this rate,
students are out.
Can we weigh it? I don't wanna say not deal with it, but weigh it
And
and
see what
call like,
happened.
maybe like an emergency meeting, because we have Zoom options now. And if we get to that point where it does become the 5% as a whole, then look at that at that time.
We certainly can. I know there is a district that is doing that.
You know,
I guess I don't think we need to panic.
No, but I mean, just making like a set stone right now, when we're not there.
Right,
We
that's-
haven't even been there yet, which is great and awesome and amazing.
I think there's a difference.
I did that earlier when he
I also
said,
don't want it to be a
we've been
rule.
supportive.
Some of my thoughts were, is I don't want to see it be, we have our finite number, let's say 15 is our finite number, just hypothetically. I don't want it to be a rolling number. Oh, well, this kid fell off today. Before we do like a solid 3-week, let's try and obliterate it out of our little school and community, just say, okay, we're all gonna wear masks for 3 weeks, let's call it done.
Yeah.
So we can just be
So
over
So
this,
exactly, the way I was looking at it is if we get to the 15,
but I just don't want it to be, oh, now
It
we're at
is.
14.
Oh, yeah, so now we don't do
it's
it.
15, it's,
We've been doing it for 3
if we hit the 15,
Yeah,
it's, well, 3, 2 weeks, whatever it is. No, if it goes, by a week later, it's down to 3. Oh,
We're still
well,
doing it.
we're gonna still
Yeah, we'll
continue.
just-
to do
yeah,
it.
Yes,
yeah.
because
So-
we
I
still
agree
have
with
that
that.
exposure time that. you know,
right, no, I,
So I think that would be a good thing, just to kind of keep.
well,
it
I
there.
think, it's like we said, we just gotta have a plan.
Mhm.
If we're gonna do 3 weeks, it's 3 weeks.
3 weeks.
It sucks. I do a lot of stuff
just stick with it
because
and,
I have to.
So 15 is number, which one, what the length, 2 weeks, 3 weeks,
I say 3.
3? Okay.
About 3. That just gives any
Another week.
potentials, and then it gives
So if
that
we have
extra
15
time.
kids in school with COVID, we go to a mask. mandate.
3 weeks.
For 3
3
weeks.
weeks.
For 3 weeks.
Yep.
I mean,
And then I think at
anybody can do
that
anything for
point,
3 weeks.
we see where we're at 10 days into it, and we can decide at that point. And then wait and see regarding the
I think so.
per grade. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, That one
Then it
kid,
could be a
I'm
good
like,
discussion.
come on, kid.
The one kid.
Yeah, you know, yeah.
But if you're saying 2, 3.
I would
that
say
I think
3,
That's kind
3,
of.
4 would be like.
Five-ish, 6?
I
I
think
would
3.
say like 5. I mean,
Okay.
honestly, you got 2.
Yeah.
It's 2 kids.
But I have my daughter's classroom is a class of 17.
Again, but then you
But
go to
2 or
2nd
3.
grade. or
That's a
6th grade.
3/4 of a kid.
Exactly.
Yeah, I mean,
2 can be a lot for 4th grade, but
Right.
2nd grade, 2 is not a lot.
right.
Correct,
So it's my
right.
point.
I just don't
Yeah.
like throwing
that's a discussion time, and what Barb's input will be
Huge, yeah.
huge
Yeah.
in that conversation.
I think there's a difference too, in if the student is positive because of an outside source, and the student is positive from an outside source, but that was it. Versus the student is positive,
Because
and
of
now
that.
these students all became positive
Yeah.
because of this,
Correct.
that's totally
The
different.
majority have been outside.
Yeah.
Yeah.
that's-
coming
Which
in.
is wonderful.
That's
Yes.
the one thing I told Jamie in our emails was like, whatever we decide, nothing can be set in stone.
No.
And nothing can, because it's also situational. I mean, it just, there's so many factors that play into all of this that what we decide one night might not be
Yeah.
what we're doing the next day.
Well, we've
I
said
would
that in
think that's-
previous meetings, like.
Right.
We've learned that
to
through our
Right.
COVID stuff. It's not, we can't,
Can't plan for it. You
No.
just can't. Yeah.
So during a
Good luck.
so the other, during a mass, so during that 3 weeks, the parents still have the option to quarantine.
Yes, I would.
Continue
I
that,
feel like
stay
we should do
consistent.
that.
School
It's a school-wide thing.
issue.
Okay,
have they been?
They have-
In- in-
Some have.
Some have.
Some have.
way more have come, are sending out than
Oh,
quarantine.
yeah. I'm sure they're like, I'm not keeping this.
Actually, the
kid
kids
home.
are actually, the older ones definitely are, like, we'd rather be here.
You're gonna go do it. I gotta go work, you're going to school.
So
That's how it works at my house. If I have to work, you're going to school.
I don't know if we need a motion or not.
No,
but
probably
Yeah,
not.
like,
I don't think. Yeah, okay.
I will send out I'll put together a letter in the next couple of days, to send to parents, just explaining this is what moving forward.
Okay.
This will be
But
the,
I think we're all comfortable with
Think
you
of the
making that
team.
decision,
Yeah.
at least
Yeah,
for that part,
absolutely.
and then you kind of asking that
Yeah.
too, of directing somebody.
Yeah.
And
That's
with
because it's more of the,
medical and
the immunity. Am I saying that right?
Getting older, but.
Legal,
I can
you know,
find some.
you know, there's a case in Wisconsin where a superintendent's getting sued because
Oh,
Of the
the
decision.
kid, but they're like,
want that to be on you then, dude.
yeah,
yeah.
oh, absolutely.
Everything, I want
You're the
everything to
guy.
fall on you. You have the good insurance.
I have a conference with a teacher in 7 minutes.
So,
Yeah,
I-
okay.
that's all. Thank you.
Board member comments?
Nope.
Motion to adjourn.
I make a motion to. adjourn.
Carl, is there a second?
Second.
Nelly, all those in favor? Aye,
Aye.
opposed? Motion or adjournment 5:38.
thank you, everyone.
Thank you.